What is poppin' fight fans? And it is just me, Darnell Giovanni, Mystic Black. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I wanted to release this on Sunday, but a couple things happened, and I was waiting for to hear from some other people before I made this video. But this past weekend, we had Tyron Woodley take on Jake Paul in a 8-round professional boxing fight. Boxing. I love how the people from the UK say boxing. Boxing. But anyways, the card was full of a lot of other great fighters as well, great boxers. Daniel Dubois was on there, got a first round finish. Amanda Serrano was there, continued that winning streak. Was amazing to see her on a card like that because she deserves that. She's been on the longest winning streak ever. Also, Tommy Fury was on there, took on Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor. Not the greatest performance by Tommy Fury, but he was on that card, and now people know who he is, and that might set up something down the road with him and somebody else, him and Jake Paul. I don't know. I don't make boxing. I don't make boxing matches, but a lot of good people on that card. It was cool to see, and of course, we had the main event of the evening, and there were so many people with so much to say after this boxing spectacle, if you want to call it. Let me start in the beginning. First of all, we got to give it up to Cleveland because that crowd was very lively. They were great. There's sometimes they go to places and you don't even hear the crowd or they don't pop for certain people. I'm using the word pop. I know it's a pro wrestling word, but it kind of works in this realm as well. That they just don't pop when a great show was put on. So first of all, I got to give props to Showtime for putting together such a great show from the commentators as well. Having Errol Helwani interview these guys after they fought, that was great because he does such great post-fight interviews. And he was great on the commentating team as well with Mauro Ronaldo and them guys over there. AJ McKee was great as well. Shout out to him. Wasn't crazy about the Barstool Sports guys. Like I didn't really care for them too much. I don't think they needed to be there in a sense of like talking. I know they sponsored it, but I didn't really need to hear them make all their bad bets, which went pretty bad for every bet that they gave. But hey, that's how you make money, right? So I understand that. But in a sense of like the entrances, I love those. I love those entrances a lot. It just remind me of kind of the Strike Force days and how those entrances went, and just I love that. So when Tyron Woodley came out, we'll go to the main event now. Tyron Woodley came out, and the crowd went actually crazy, which I wasn't expecting because Jake Paul's from Cleveland, Ohio. But that crowd had some respect for a former 4-time UFC welterweight champion. They knew exactly who he was. He came out to his new song, which I think is really good. I know he had some other songs that people didn't like before, but that Go Big song, I was into it. And it was thumping. It was, you heard it. You heard it. And they had him come out in like this little tunnel, and he just came down the ramp there, and he had his headphones on because I think he thought the crowd was going to boo, but they didn't boo him. They actually were cheering for him. So that was pretty cool to see. I wish he could have heard that pop. Then he had OT Genesis, rap and walk him down to the ring. That was awesome. And then he did his stomp when he got into the ring, as he used to do in the UFC. So that was awesome to see the nostalgia of that. And then Jake Paul came out to a little bit of booze, not as big of a pop as Tyron Woodley got. So that was weird to see, but he came out to, I forget what song, and to MGK, the Cleveland song, and then to Young Jeezy I put on, which was two good songs. But the entrance was okay. It wasn't compared to Tyron Woodley. I give Tyron Woodley the upper hand on that one. So of course I do the announcements. It's just weird to see Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley in a Showtime ring. You just don't expect that. You watch a Showtime fight, you're expecting Floyd Mayweather to be fighting, Manny Pacquiao maybe to be fighting, one of those guys. But to see Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul in a boxing ring was pretty cool to see. And I was excited, not going to lie. I got a little bit of goosebumps. So they do the announcements, and the fight starts, of course. So let me give you a couple things that I was thinking pre-fight. I was thinking, and what kept running in my head is Tyron Woodley had a lot of issues in his last 4 fights in the UFC. Of course, they were against the top 4 UFC welterweights right now. The champion Kamaru Usman, number 1 ranked Colby Covington, number 2 ranked Gilbert Burns. Number 3 ranked Vincente Luque. Literally all 4 guys at the top of the welterweight class. So it's not like he lost to some schlubs. It was people that were very difficult, but you can see his discomfort in that cage. Like maybe he didn't want to do it anymore. He kept talking about how weight cuts were very bad for him, and his energy kind of went down. That sucks. But I just kept thinking, there's no way he's going to be comfortable in a boxing ring. I couldn't see it. And I just kept thinking, Jake Paul is just going to just jab him a lot. Jab, jab, jab. I don't think he's going to go for too many power shots, but I think he'll jab his way into a unanimous victory, maybe split decision, something like that. But I didn't feel like Jake Paul was going to knock him out. And he proved me literally correct. Jake Paul, in my opinion, he was beating Tyron Woodley in basics of boxing. I understand people were like, oh, Woodley's pressing forward. But if you're not throwing anything, you're not getting points for that. This is boxing. If boxing was by damage, it would be very different. Or if boxing was by how much you throw too, it would be very different, but they score things differently. Tyron Woodley was throwing a lot of power shots. He was missing. I don't know if you guys want to rewatch that. He was missing with some power shots that he threw. Jake Paul was kind of evading him, minus the one in the 4th round. He hit him pretty big. I think he had 2 big shots, an uppercut and then that right. That caught Jake Paul and the ropes caught him. So that was probably the most significant thing of the fight. But what Jake Paul was doing, and I know a lot of people were talking about Jake Paul having terrible footwork. Listen, I don't disagree with that at all. The footwork did not look good, but he did say something about his legs just feeling weird. But I don't know. That's an excuse or whatever you want to say. But I feel that Jake Paul was doing the correct thing. Did people expect Jake Paul to stand in front of Tyron Woodley and just take one of those big rights? Tyron Woodley is very powerful. I said this before the fight. Jake Paul has to stay at a distance and keep circling around. You have to try to get him tired. You have to let him throw those hard shots so that I can get him tired as well, or for him to come forward and to lean into something and Jake Paul can catch him. I'm not going to get too technical with the boxing stuff because that's not my realm, but I understand the game plan that Jake Paul should have had and that he did have. And honestly, it did work. I kept saying as I was watching the fight, man, he's looking a little tired. Jake Paul was looking tired, like in that 4th and 5th round. But he dug deep and he finished all 8 rounds. You have to give him credit for that. There's a lot of Jake Paul is not a real fighter. Jake Paul is not a real professional boxer. Listen, Jake Paul has millions of dollars. He does not have to do this. He does not have to be a boxer. He makes millions and millions of dollars off of YouTube, off of all the things that he does that's online. He does not have to do these things. You have to understand that. So you have to give him credit for going into camps for the past 3 years. The kid has not taken a break. He's just been in boxing camps or just training his ass off to get to the place that he is now. There's no way Jake Paul can last 8 rounds with a former, I know it's mixed martial arts, but with a former champion who's been in plenty of title fights, plenty of different kind of combat from wrestling to MMA. There's no way he would last 8 rounds if he was trash or if he was not good. I'm not saying Jake Paul is the greatest boxer. I'm not saying Jake Paul is this top tier professional. I'm not saying Jake Paul could beat whoever's in a cruiserweight, which is 190 pounds, which they fight at in professional boxing. I don't know. I'm not saying that. But the fact that he lasted that long shows you that he's been doing something right. So all this, Jake Paul is not a fighter. Jake Paul is not a fighter. Jake Paul is a fighter. He got through adversity. There's some fighters who don't get through adversity like that. And sometimes, honestly, they might quit. He didn't quit. He kept moving around, kept moving his body, got to the next round and fought a different fight. And that got him to that 8th round, and that got him out of the end of the day. It's a smart move. Who wants to keep taking damage and getting hit to the head like that? It's not smart. Remember, this is a defensive sport. It's called hitting and not getting hit. And he got hit, yes, once or twice, big time. But besides that, Tyron wasn't really throwing. I know people can say, oh, if Tyron would have went forward and did this, if Tyron would, if, but he didn't. At the end of the day, he didn't. He had a very big opportunity to get Jake Paul when he was tired and rolling back and running away. And he was kind of doing this with his hands, just kind of seeing what he's going to do. But that's the Tyron Woodley we were used to back in the UFC days where, he couldn't then pull that trigger. And if he did, I feel like he could have, possibly finished Jake Paul, but unfortunately, that didn't happen. So there's a lot of ifs. Maybe he could have. Do I think? And here's another question that people were asking me: Where was it a bad fight? I don't think it was a bad fight at all. At every round, I was on the edge of my seat, like, what is going to happen? I'm the MMA guy. I love MMA. Of course, I would have loved to see Tyron Woodley win one for the MMA people, even though he was like, I'm not fighting for MMA people. I'm fighting for myself. They never had my back. We still got your back, Tyron Woodley. No matter what you say to us, we still got your back. But I was on the edge of my seat to see what is going to happen. These are two guys who throw very big shots. Jake Paul is known for knocking people out in his past 3 fights or 4 fights. And Tyron Woodley is a guy who can knock somebody out. So this is all something that could have happened. So I'm watching that just on the edge of my seat. So I thought it was a pretty good fight. I did not think it was a bad fight at all. I kind of want to rewatch it a couple times again just to see certain small things that I probably missed while I was watching it. It was a little late, so I was a little tired, but I definitely want to rewatch that a couple times just to catch some things, especially on the Tyron side and how they were game planning, and on the Jake Paul side and how they were game planning. And remember, this is a guy who just started boxing 3 years ago, guys. 3 years ago. Yes, he did wrestle in high school, but started boxing 3 years ago. Tyron Woodley has been doing combat sports for, I want to say, 17 years, something like that. It's a long time. So you got to give Jake Paul credit. I'm tired of hearing no credit for Jake Paul. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but you have to think about the things that he did with this fight. Yes, okay, he was talking crap. People do that in combat sports. It's fighting, man. People are going to fight. Somebody's going in there on the possibility of shortening your life with hits to the head. Of course you're going to talk about it. Of course it's going to make you emotional. This is regular. I understand that mixed martial arts is different in a sense of the respect for your competitor, but not everybody in mixed martial arts is respectful. They're not. A lot of these guys like to talk, maybe to hype themselves up, to do whatever they need to do. But it is a fight sport. They're going to talk. But at the same time, Jake Paul did a lot in a sense of, for those fighters on that card who probably won't see a payday like this maybe for a while. Amanda Serrano has never seen a payday like this. This girl is on, I want to say, I think she's on a 27-fight win streak. That is unheard of. Why is this girl not main eventing a huge card somewhere and making millions of dollars? Remember, boxing is supposed to be the sport that pays more than MMA, right? Those women are not making that much money. That's why these girls are crossing over. If you know that, Amanda Serrano went to MMA. She's actually 2-0 in MMA. I think she has 1 draw and 2 wins. But Heather Hardy, the girl who was fighting boxing, she went to MMA. Didn't fare too well for her. She fought in Bellator, but she went there because she wasn't getting paid in the boxing room. Jake Paul helped these people get notoriety. So when they fight again, they have a bigger name, and maybe they can headline a card, and maybe they can make more money, from the Daniel Dubois to the Amanda Serranos to the Tommy Furies to my man from Cleveland. I'm forgetting his name. I think his last name is Love. But getting all that notoriety is so great for them. Even Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor is going to be able to do something after this bigger because he was on his card. So for the people that are talking very bad on Jake Paul, it's hard to do because you have to give the man credit for giving Tyron Woodley one of the biggest paydays of his career. Oh, Jake Paul is not paying Tyron Woodley. I get that, but Jake Paul's name is definitely giving that card a bigger platform. The pay-per-view numbers just came in. 1.3 million buys. Tyron Woodley, I have this poster right here. UFC 209. You can kind of see it creeping right here. UFC 209. You know how many pay-per-view buys that had? 200,000 pay-per-view buys. 200,000 pay-per-view buys, and this guy was a champion of one of the biggest organizations, and he only made $500K for that fight. No sponsors, because remember, you can't have sponsors on anything. Fights Jake Paul, gets $2 million flat, plus pay-per-view points, plus sponsorship, and you're not going to give Jake Paul any kind of credit for that. You got to give Jake Paul credit for that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say it. I know it hurts. I know I'm the MMA guy. I know it hurts to hear it from my mouth, but you have to give Jake Paul credit for the amount of money that those fighters made on that card. You have to. I know people are going to hate me for saying this, but I got to say it. Of course, if you guys have any responses to this, leave it in the comments. I'd love to talk about it. I will respond immediately. I will respond immediately. But as far as it goes with who these guys fight next or what happens next. Do I want to see a rematch? No, I'm good. I don't need to see a rematch. Um, I feel that the spectacle happened. You can't repeat what happened before the fight when it came from the fights before, during the media days and the press conference and the lead up to it. I don't think you can redo that. Do I want Tyron Woodley to get another bag? Absolutely, I want him to get more, make a lot more money. He deserves that. Man has worked so hard in his career. I hope Tyron Woodley gets a bag in his next fight. I hope he gets another bag. It doesn't have to be against Jake Paul. He wants a box now. Give him another name, bigger name, a big name, and I can see him fighting somebody in boxing and making that money. I want to see it happen. As far as it goes with Jake Paul, it's hard. It's a little difficult to think about what he's going to do next because I know the Tommy Fury thing was important to some people, but I don't want to see it anymore. Tommy Fury didn't look that great. I feel like Jake Paul will go in there and probably starch Tommy Fury, to be completely honest. Tommy Fury basically fought a featherweight lightweight and couldn't finish him. He definitely has boxed more than Anthony Taylor, and Anthony Taylor stayed in there for all 4 rounds. I don't want to see that fight again. I don't want to see them fight. Excuse me. I don't want to see them fight. So I think something the next for Jake Paul, maybe. Who can Jake Paul? I want to see Tyron Woodley fight Logan Paul. You know what? You lose to the brother, beat the older brother. They're not too far off in weight. So that'd be pretty cool. Tyron Woodley versus Logan Paul. Sign me up. And then Jake Paul versus somebody else in MMA. You know what? I'm not hating the Jake Paul versus the MMA guys. I'm actually loving it. Is he ever going to fight? And I said this before too. Jake Paul is not going to go in there and find a bunch of professional boxers. And if he does, even more respect to him. But I don't see that happening. But Jake Paul versus another MMA fighter, I'm down. Give him Masvidal, Anderson Silva, one of these guys who love to box, and I would love to watch it. I don't care if Jake Paul gets knocked out. I don't care who gets knocked out. I don't care if it goes to the decision. I will be excited to watch it. So that'd be cool to see. But yeah, guys, that's my pretty much my reaction for that fight that happened on Sunday. If you have any comments you want to make below, please let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This is what this sport is here for. This is what sports is here for. So we can debate and have these conversations. I'm going to do more of these going on in the future. Just reaction videos because I feel like they're very important. And it's good to get certain like topics and ideas out that people aren't like thinking of or don't want to say. I'm going to say it. Believe that. I'm going to say it. But of course, guys, check me out on Instagram at Mystic Black MMA. On YouTube at Mystic Black MMA. I'm on Low Kick MMA as well. I'm on MMA Island right here, as you can see. More interviews coming out soon. Got Jairzinho Rosenstruck coming on the show tomorrow. Got AJ McKee as well. Got a lot of other people coming. Kenny Flores coming soon. Guys, keep watching. Stay right here. Don't move. Appreciate you guys. I'm out. Boom! Why is it not ending? Boom.